Welcome to Have More Babies. Today we're diving into something in children's health that honestly might surprise you. When we think about really serious health stuff like certain cancers, we usually think adult problems, right? Things that happen way down the line. But the material we're looking at today kind of flips that idea on its head, especially for skin health. We have this really insightful article from Omega Pediatrics. It's called Melanoma Watch, a parent's vigilant approach to sun safety for children.
Mm.
So our mission here is to unpack all this important info, make sure you know about the risk of melanoma in kids, which often gets overlooked, and, what you can actually do.
Yeah, and what's really striking, I think, from this Omega Pediatrics piece is exactly that shift you mentioned. Melanoma, we tend to associate it with adults, sunbathing, that sort of thing. But the data they're highlighting shows this concerning rise in cases reported in kids. It just really hammers home how important it is to be watchful right from the start. It's not just an adult thing anymore. It's definitely something parents need on their radar for their children.
Wow. That's a pretty powerful way to start. A little unsettling, actually. So, okay, let's get down to basics then. For parents listening who might not be too familiar, what is melanoma exactly, and why do we need to be thinking about it for our kids?
Right. So melanoma is a kind of skin cancer. It starts in cells called melanocytes. Those are the cells that make melanin, the pigment that gives skin and hair and eyes their color. The absolute key thing from Omega Pediatrics here is that catching it early is crucial for treatment to work well. And the tricky part with kids is that it can sometimes be missed or maybe look like just a normal mole. That's why talking about it is so urgent. The article is clear. While it's still pretty rare in children compared to adults, the numbers are going up, and that means we need to be proactive.
That makes total sense. I mean, as parents, we're always looking out for scraped knees, coughs,
Huh.
but maybe we're not always thinking about checking moles that closely. So when we are doing those checks, maybe after bath time or something, what are the specific signs? What should make us pause and take a closer look?
Okay, yeah. The Omega Pediatrics article lays out three main things to keep an eye on. First is changing moles. So any change in size, shape, or the color of a mole that's already there, if it suddenly gets bigger or the edges get kind of ragged or the color changes and maybe gets darker or has multiple shades, those are things to watch. Second, look out for new growths, especially if a new spot pops up and looks really different from the child's other moles, like the ugly duckling mole, they sometimes call it. And third, any itching or bleeding from a mole. If a mole that's just been sitting there suddenly starts itching a lot or bleeds without being bumped or scratched, that definitely needs checking out. Now, the article stresses, not every change is cancer, of course, but these kinds of changes absolutely need to be checked by a doctor like a pediatrician or dermatologist just to be safe. Better safe than sorry, always.
That's super practical, things parents can actually look for. Okay, now here's something that I find really interesting, because I think, like you said, most of us link skin cancer directly to sun. Too much sun, right? Tanning beds, beach holidays, forgetting sunscreen. But this Omega Pediatrics article seems to suggest it might be, a bit more complicated for kids. Are there other risk factors besides just sun exposure?
You're right, that's a really common thought, and UV radiation is a huge factor. The article definitely confirms that sun safety is paramount. But it also points out some things specific to kids that maybe broaden that picture. And one thing that's quite surprising, actually, is that some melanoma cases in kids have been reported even with minimal sun exposure, which is pretty significant because it challenges that simple idea that it's always just about getting too much sun. It suggests there might be other things going on, other factors involved in some pediatric cases. Makes being watchful important for all kids.
Wow, okay. Minimal sun exposure. That really does change things. So it's not just about slathering on sunscreen at the beach then. What else should parents be aware of?
Exactly. So besides UV, the article points to genetics. A family history of melanoma is a big one. If a parent, grandparent, aunt, uncle has had melanoma, that unfortunately does increase a child's risk. It's important info to share with your doctor. And then there's skin type. That's a well-known risk factor. Kids with fair skin, light hair, blue or green eyes, they naturally have less melanin protecting them, so they're more susceptible to sun damage and therefore melanoma. The advice is definitely for parents of fair-skinned kids to be extra careful with sun protection and skin checks.
That's a really good reminder that it's often a combination of factors, not just one thing. It really underlines needing a whole approach, being sun smart, but also knowing your family history and your child's skin type. Okay, so let's say a parent does see something worrying, one of those changing moles or maybe a new spot that looks off. What happens next? How is it diagnosed and treated in kids?
Well, the diagnostic steps are generally similar to adults, but obviously, tailored to a child. The key step to know for sure is a biopsy. A dermatologist will take a small sample of the suspicious spot, or sometimes remove the whole thing if it's small and looks very suspicious, and send it to a lab. That analysis under the microscope is what confirms if it's melanoma or something else. For treatment, surgery is usually the main approach. The goal is just to remove all the cancerous cells. How extensive the surgery is depends on, how deep the melanoma goes and where it is. But what's really encouraging, and the article mentions this, is the progress in emerging therapies. Things like chemotherapy and particularly immunotherapy are being used more and refined for kids. Immunotherapy is especially exciting. It basically helps the child's own immune system fight the cancer. It offers a lot of new hope.
It definitely sounds like catching it early and acting fast are just absolutely key. But like we always say, preventing it in the first place is even better, right? So what does Omega Pediatrics recommend for parents to be proactive? What are those everyday things we can do to protect our kids?
Absolutely, prevention is top priority. The article really focuses on two main areas parents can work on. First is solid sun safety, and this isn't just about beach days, it's every day. It means teaching kids right from when they're little to use sunscreen SPF 30 or higher and reapplying it often. Also wearing protective clothing, hats with wide brims, long sleeves, sunglasses, and seeking shade, especially during those peak sun hours, roughly 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. The second big thing is regular skin checks. This means parents doing regular checks at home, just looking over their child's skin, maybe make it part of the routine. And also having regular checkups with a pediatrician or dermatologist, especially if the child has risk factors, fair skin, lots of moles, family history. And I thought this was great. The article talks about empowering kids themselves, teaching them to be aware of their own skin as they get older and notice changes, like teaching them ABCDEs of moles. It gives them agency in their own health.
Oh, I love that. Empowering kids to be part of it. That's fantastic. Makes it less scary, maybe, and more routine. Okay, so what does this all mean when we zoom out? Beyond what individual parents can do, which is super important, what does the Omega Pediatrics article suggest about where things are heading? Like the research, the future of tackling pediatric melanoma. Are there big breakthroughs happening?
Yeah, if we connect this to the bigger picture, the really hopeful thing is that this field is moving fast. It's very dynamic. The article points to a few key areas of progress. One is genetic insights. Researchers are digging really deep into the molecular details of these cancers in kids. They're finding specific gene mutations that might make a child more likely to develop melanoma. And knowing that, well, that opens the door for more personalized treatments tailored right to that child's specific cancer. Then there's immunotherapy advancements, which we touched on. That's a huge area. Using the body's immune system to fight cancer is showing real promise in pediatric cases, which is fantastic. The article also mentions collaborative initiatives. Researchers and doctors around the world are working together, sharing data, pooling resources. That kind of teamwork really speeds up progress and helps create standard, effective ways to treat kids everywhere. They also bring up psychosocial support, recognizing how tough a cancer diagnosis is on the child and the family. So more focus is going into providing counseling and support services, and of course, ongoing awareness campaigns. Getting the word out to parents, teachers, doctors about the risks and early signs. Looking ahead, the article even touches on future directions, like using artificial intelligence AI to help analyze skin images, maybe spot suspicious moles earlier, and more personalized medicine based on genetic profiles. It's pretty cutting edge stuff.
Wow. It is incredibly reassuring to hear about all that research and collaboration. That idea of personalized medicine treatments really zeroed in on the individual child's genetics. That sounds like a huge leap forward. Really hopeful. Okay, well, this discussion, really guided by that Omega Pediatrics article, has definitely shown that being watchful needs to start early. And knowing this stuff is, well, it's our best protection. This shift towards understanding the genetics and developing these targeted therapies feels revolutionary, doesn't it? It really offers hope. It makes you think, too. As technology like AI gets better for detection, how might our role as parents change in monitoring our kids' health? It's an interesting future to think about combining our care with these new tools.
It really is. And all these ongoing efforts, from the genetic work to immunotherapy, it just means the whole landscape for pediatric melanoma is changing, constantly improving. It really shows the power of being informed and taking action and the drive to find better answers.
We have covered a ton today. Hopefully you feel a lot more informed now about protecting your child's skin. For much more detail, tons of resources, or if you have concerns and want to book an appointment, we absolutely recommend you visit omegapediatrics.com. They are just a fantastic resource for all things pediatric care and information. Seriously, check them out. That's omegapediatrics.com. omegapediatrics.com. And if you found this conversation helpful, please do like this video, subscribe to our channel. We have lots more coming up on children's health. And please share this with other parents, grandparents, caregivers, anyone who might benefit from knowing this.
Yes, thank you for tuning in for this really important conversation. Stay informed and stay vigilant out there.
And thanks for being part of Have More Babies. We'll see you next time.